What up? It's Chris from LaserLemming.com, and today I want to talk about the PlayStation Vita. If you don't know, and many people don't, this is Sony's second handheld system. They had the PlayStation Portable, the PSP. That was a relatively moderate success. People thought that they were going to just crush Nintendo because Nintendo, up until that point, until 2004, had been the dominant force in the handheld gaming sector. There was nobody that ever got close to touching them with their Game Boy brand. And then around the GameCube era, Nintendo was struggling. They weren't selling as many systems as they were supposed to, so they came up with this third pillar idea, which was the Nintendo DS, the dual screen. It was a huge fucking success. It was a big deal. And Nintendo ended up selling through several iterations, including the DS Lite and the DSi, which I got both of, and including the first DS. Even though my hand was broken at the time, I still got that as well. Nintendo has sold a lot of these fuckers. It's been a huge success for them, especially in Japan, even in America. The Nintendo DS, and in Europe, as a matter of fact, it's just been huge. It's just been a big money maker for Nintendo. So understandably, Sony wanted a chunk of that game. But they wanted a chunk of that game when they were seeing the money Nintendo was making during the Game Boy days, the Game Boy Advance days specifically, especially during the GBA SP era. So they came out with the PlayStation Portable. Moderate success. Sony thought that they could do better, and so they announced the PlayStation Vita. At the time, Nintendo was still selling the Nintendo 3DS for $250. Now, granted, it wasn't selling well at $250, but when Sony announced the PlayStation Vita at $250, it had better technology. It was just this new Sony handheld with great graphics and yada yada yada, and it cost the same amount as this console with inferior technology. Wow, this thing is going to do great, a lot of people said, not me, because I had the same problem with the PlayStation Portable. See, in order for a handheld to do well, especially a high-priced handheld, the games have to sell well. The PSP got a lot of big third-party ports from the PlayStation 2 to the PSP that didn't sell well. Vita had the same problem. There was a lot of games that were made for the PS3 and the Xbox 360 that also ended up coming to the Vita. Didn't sell shit. That's a problem, because Sony had the idea that people were going to want to spend $60, or I guess maybe even $50 on a AAA title, a big epic game on a handheld. And the fact is, people just aren't that interested in that, which is kind of good and bad in my opinion, because I like the idea of a game like Resident Evil Revelations selling well on the 3DS, or even on the Vita if it came to that. But it doesn't. It sells better on a console because it's a bigger game. And that's why on phones, on mobile, there's so many popular, small, quick games that are easily accessible by the casual gamer that just doesn't give a shit about the console gaming world like you and I. So, we get back to my original point about the life of the Vita and whatnot. Sony has pretty much said that they're not going to invest any more big dollars into AAA games on the Vita. As you might remember, Uncharted Golden Abyss, I believe is what it was called, came out for the Vita at launch. That was a launch game. It was a AAA title. It was an Uncharted game on the Vita, and the handheld looked just like the PS3 games almost. It looked pretty damn good. But you'll never see a new Uncharted game exclusively available for the Vita. And I wager this to you, you will never see an official Sony successor to the Vita outside of a new phone. You will not see another Sony dedicated handheld. They have lost completely in this regard. Sony is a struggling company as it is. The PlayStation brand is one of the few brands that make money. The Vita is not one of them. It's the PS3, the PS4. That's where Sony is making its bread and butter, outside of maybe one or two other sectors of the company. A lot of other parts of the company have been slashed, trashed, no more cash. It's just done. Sony has fucking nixed them, rightfully so. Not the PlayStation brand. The Vita is probably the next to go, as far as the PS brand goes. Only reason the Vita is still alive is a few reasons. One of them is remote play, kind of doing what you do with your Wii U. You could play games on the go. But the problem here I have with that is that it's missing a few shoulder buttons, so developers are forced to make up with it with a touchpad, so your R2s and L2s become touchpad buttons. It's not as good, but if the developers could find a better way to do it, it's okay. Now, another reason the PS Vita is still alive is because of PlayStation Plus and the possibility of PlayStation Now, which is their live streaming game service, which is kind of like Gaikai, or however the fuck you pronounce it, and the other one that is no longer really alive, I believe. Gaikai, as you know, got bought by Sony. Anyway, I'm rambling. About 4 beers in. So, like I said, the PS Vita will no longer, will be the last Sony dedicated handheld. I firmly believe that. If I'm wrong, you can go back to this video and point at me and laugh at me, whatever. But I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I'll say that right now. Sony will continue to make phones. Right now they're on their Xperia game, and they just want to make new phones. I almost bought a new Xperia phone. Instead, I opted for the HTC One M8, which is a pretty cool phone. But I won't get into that. But the reality is that Sony's done. Sony's done with handhelds. They tried, and they tried earnestly. They did better than anybody else that tried to compete against Nintendo. And I'm glad they did, because they probably pushed Nintendo to try harder. And when you don't have competition pushing you to try harder, you get complacent. Take a look at EA with the Madden games. Ever since they bought out the NFL with it, and NFL 2K disappeared, Madden has gotten lazy as shit. The prices went back up, and it's just sucked. It sucked fucking penis. It sucked penis. I won't curse. It sucked a lot of male genitalia. And they've had no reason to compete, and it's the same problem. So if Nintendo has less reason to compete, which even if the Vita and the Vita 2 or whatever Sony might have possibly thought they would be releasing but will no longer be releasing, even if that had existed, Nintendo would still have to compete more than ever because of smartphones. Smartphones are just eating up their market with the free games and the 99-cent games. Nintendo still has to really figure it out. Even though they're still doing good, and the dedicated handheld still has a place for the niche gamer, but Nintendo has to think about the gamer that's being born right now, that was born 5 years ago, the gamer that's growing up with smartphones, that doesn't expect D-pads and buttons, that expects some shitty touchscreen buttons. That's the gamer Nintendo has to figure out how to win, and that Sony should have tried harder to win. But that's my thoughts. I'm rambling like crazy right now. I want to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. Got a comedy channel. That's the word I'm looking for. I have a comedy channel. You should check that out. It's very funny stuff. I thank you for watching. See you next time.